Welcome back to the double leg. I'm one half of the show, Hey Jai Picks. The other half of the show, the parlay. Joining me in to break down some UFC Austin. Let's get in. We are back with some UFC action after the weekend off. Luckily, we had some PFL championship fights, but it doesn't hit the same as a UFC card. Luckily for us, we got 3 in a row before it comes to the end of the year, starting with a banger of a fight night. UFC Austin, we got 13 fights and a pretty stacked main card. What do you think of the card overall?
Yeah, I love this card actually. There's a lot of exciting fighters, a lot of guys with some name value. I mean, Beneil Dariush, Arman Tsarukyan is the main event. You're not going to get much better grappling than that. I think it's going to be on full display. Got up and comers like Sean Brady, who's coming off of a layoff. People love watching him fight. And you got some old heads like Clay Guida, who always brings the fight too. So you get a little bit of everything, a lot of chances to make some money, a lot of good fights, and I can't wait.
I'm excited for it. I've been waiting for this fight for a while. It's a big time lightweight fight in the main event. A couple top 10 ranked guys. Got a bunch of ranked fighters on this card. We're going to go through, give you our picks and our little breakdown for each fight. If you want our bets, you can jump in the double leg premium. The link is in the description for that. We've been on a heater recently. We added up all the totals. And for my picks, since September 2nd, you'd be up over 27 units. So that means if you're $100 unit better, you'd be up $2,700. And once again, the premium membership, it's only $19.99. So you're netting a good amount there. How have your picks been? I know you've been on a good streak as well.
Yeah, lately we've got a lot of our losses back that we had right in the middle of between now and September, but overall up 13 units since September, up over 25 since May. I can't complain, man. Anytime in the UFC, which is such a volatile sport, when you're up units, it's always a good thing. So looking to close the year strong. I think we're going to do so. We've been seeing these fights really well lately, so I can't wait for these cards.
Yeah, let's keep it rolling. We had a really big card at UFC Vegas. What was it, 83, 82 or 83? 82. All right. Yeah, we're looking to keep this thing rolling. So let's start it off and get through these breakdowns and prediction. Started with the main event. Beneil Dariush coming in at plus 220 against Arman Tsarukyan at minus 280. Over under 3.5 rounds, minus 130 for the over, and even money on the under. Beneil Dariush, 34 years of age, coming off his first loss in a very long time to the man Charles do Bronx Oliveira. That was kind of his shot to the title there. Now he's got to take a step back against Arman Tsarukyan, who has been one guy that people have been keeping their eyes on as a future title challenger and a future champion, as many have deemed him. And he's 4-1 in his last 5. He had that loss to Mateusz Gamrot, pretty controversial decision, but he did take the loss and then comes back and he had a cancel bout with Renato Moicano. In steps Joaquim Silva, who we'll talk about later on this card. He gets him out of there in the 3rd round TKO. So this guy has been highly talked about by the MMA community for a while. He's not the biggest star, but if you watch the UFC even just a little bit, you watch him fight and you're like, yeah, this guy's got it, because he's very well-rounded, obviously more of a grappler type style. He's going to want to chain wrestle you, get you on the ground, land some big ground and pound, but on the feet, he's also got some pretty solid striking. Looked like he wanted to show that off against Joaquim Silva. Damn near, he got wobbled in the 2nd round there. And then I think he was like, all right, we're done with this, trying to, mess around with this guy, gets him out of there in the 3rd round. But before that, dominant win over Damir Ismagulov. And it was a really impressive performance because he just kind of ragdolled Ismagulov, who's a good fighter. But Beneil Dariush, he's been around for a long time. It's going to be his 23rd UFC fight. So he's got a wealth of experience and coming in as a big dog. It's a little intriguing. What are you thinking?
Yeah, like I said earlier, man, this is going to be such a high-level exchange of grappling this whole entire fight. And I like Arman Tsarukyan a lot. I think he's getting some pushback from his last fight where he got rocked on the feet in the second round and almost put away. But besides that, he's fought pretty well in most of his fights. I mean, the Gamrot fight, I thought he won. It was a unanimous decision win for Gamrot. But at the end of the day, that was a really, really close fight, and he outstruck him and looked pretty good a lot of times in that fight. For Beneil Dariush, he's just getting a little older, man. He's starting to get up there, and I think it showed a little bit against Charles Oliveira in the fact that Oliveira likes to put pressure in your face, and he likes to get after it and not let you breathe. And we saw Beneil kind of crumble under that pressure. He got backed up to the fence. He ate some big shots, and from there, Charles was able to finish the fight. I don't think Arman is on that level, obviously, with the striking, but as far as the pressure and the pace, like Arman's going to be there for 5 rounds. And if Beneil can't match that past the second and third round, I think Arman's just kind of going to do what he wants with him, and wouldn't be surprised here if you see Arman find the finish via TKO, actually. I don't think Arman's going to be submitting Beneil. Beneil's very good on the ground defensively and offensively. But, when you're that tired and you got a guy with that much pressure putting it on you this whole entire fight, I just don't know how well he's going to fare against a guy like Arman Tsarukyan. And, Beneil on the feet is going to probably be the better striker, but he's not a guy that just blows you away with his technical striking or anything. He gets a little wild at times. And Arman, we've seen in past fights where his striking could improve, but at the same time, it seems to be getting better at the same time. Like he's pretty sound on the feet. He's not lacking tremendously, like you could say at the beginning of his career. I think it's getting better. I think he, being the younger fighter, he's got a wealth of UFC experience at this point against some decent guys. I think he should be able to get Beneil Dariush out of there.
Yeah, this is it's a tough one as far as the price goes, because Beneil Dariush was a favorite over Charles Oliveira, and now he's coming in as a sizable underdog against a guy who's up and coming in Tsarukyan. But Tsarukyan, since he's been in the UFC, made his debut against Islam, and then he's really just been fighting killers pretty much. Joaquim Silva is one of the guys probably lower on the totem pole as far as his competition, wins over OAM, who's the PFL 2-time champion now, Matt Frivola, Christos Yagos, Joel Alvarez, Demiris Magulov. So he's got some good wins on his record. But in this one, it seems like a tough matchup for Beneil, in the fact that Tsarukyan's probably going to be faster, maybe a little bit stronger in the clinch, maybe not as good as jiu-jitsu as Dariush has, but that top pressure in the wrestling might just pretty much negate all that. So it's a tough matchup. Beneil on the feet, I would give a slight edge, but at the same time, I don't know how it's going to play out, because he's kind of more of a methodical striker. It's not going to blow you away with his speed or his power. He's not really out there cold cocking dudes. He's got a couple TKOs and KOs in the past 3 years. One to Scott Holtzman, spinning back fist, and then he knocked out Drakkar Klose in that wild fight. But other than that, he does not really knocking dudes out like that. So, yeah, for the pick, I'm going to go with Arman Tsarukyan, but I don't love the line. I know this line opened a lot closer, but since then it's kind of steamed towards Arman's way. He'll be the pick for me. I don't know if I'll bet it, though, just for the fact that Dariush has been here, done that. We've seen it against Gamrot. When Gamrot fought Beneil, Gamrot was a favorite in that one, and Beneil showed there's levels to this. If you're gonna come fight these top 5 guys, you better be very well rounded. And Gamrot just had nothing for him on the feet. Dariush was able to win the exchanges on the ground with the transitions. Tsarukyan could come in here and look the same way, but for now, Tsarukyan's going to be the pick for me. Co-main event, Jalen Turner stepping in on short notice, coming in at -250 against Bobby Green at +200, over under 1.5 rounds, -185 for the over, +155 for the under. Jalen Turner taking this fight on 9 or 10 days notice. Supposed to be Dan Hooker. Hooker falls out with the injury. Turner steps up to take on Bobby Green. It was a great fight to begin with, and I don't know if this is a better fight or not, but I love it. I love both fights. This should be a really fun co-main event. Bobby was preparing for 5 rounds, but if this was going to be a 3-round fight with Turner stepping in on short notice, one of those where you might want to watch the weigh-ins and see how Jalen Turner looks, because he missed weight in his last fight out. And he's a pretty big lightweight, 6'3". You see there on the screen. He is much younger, though, 28 years of age. Bobby Green, 37, and 2-2 and a no contest in his last 5. But he is coming off that big knockout win in his last time out against Grant Dawson, in one where I was completely wrong, but that's MMA, because Grant Dawson gets sparked at 33 seconds. That was an impressive win. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know what to do with that. It wasn't like he went out there and outclassed him, but he did catch him early. Jalen Turner, last time out, took a loss to Dan Hooker in a really awesome fight that we saw live at UFC 290. He was a favorite in that one over Dan Hooker. He was minus 200 or near minus 300 when it closed. But Dan Hooker got it done as the dog. So in this one, I mean, you're looking at a guy who just came in as a big underdog, got a win, and you're looking at a guy that was a big favorite and took a loss. So this is a tough one to pick. What do you got?
Yeah, it is tough. And, if Bobby Green can come out here and finish Jalen Turner, which is going to be hard, which is going to be tough, but it'll be one of the better comebacks we've seen in the lightweight division in a while. I mean, loses to Drew Dober by knockout, and before that, Islam Makhachev by TKO. And then you beat Tony Ferguson by submission, Grant Dawson, TKO. And if you get Jalen Turner, he's on a good run, and it's impressive for what he's doing at this point in his career. The one thing I struggle to see is how he has as much success on the feet as he has against some of these guys, against the dude in Jalen Turner, who's 6'3" at 155. Like, that's a hard guy to reach. It's a hard guy to close the distance on, and really fight at his style. Like, Bobby Green likes to fight at distance. His hands are down. He likes to fight off of his jab, and he does it so really well. But, he's fighting a guy, basically you're punching up against a dude who's 6'3". I just don't know how much success he's going to have. I think, if he gets that jab going and he realizes he can touch Jalen, as the fight goes on, I think you'll see him have more success. Because with Turner, I mean, there is some weight cut concerns, in my opinion. He misses weight against Dan Hooker, I believe. Did he miss against Gamrot too?
No, I think he made that one. He's missed before, but it wasn't against Gamrot.
It wasn't against Gamrot. Yeah, he's such a big guy for lightweight. Like, it's understandable that he's having trouble making the weight class, especially as he gets a little bit older. So I don't know if that is going to start affecting his cardio or gas tank, or if Dan Hooker was just hitting him in the body so much and his volume just got to him. But at the end of the Dan Hooker fight, Jalen Turner was exhausted, or even going into the third round, he was exhausted. And I think Bobby Green can push a better pace than Dan Hooker if he can survive in the early rounds. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if we get past a round and a half, and how Jalen's gas tank's holding up. And if Bobby Green can just turn it on and win those last 2 rounds, it's going to get really interesting, especially for a big underdog. I do think, though, especially early on, Bobby will struggle to find the range against Turner. And, Turner, he's shown before, he can use his length to get a sub like he did against Brad Riddell in the first minute in the fight. He's just a well-rounded fighter. And, compared to the guys Bobby's fighting, this could be his toughest matchup, in my opinion. So for the pick, I'm going to stick with Jalen Turner. I think he comes out here. It's not like he's taking it on 2, 3, 4 days notice. He's having a little bit of time, get everything in check. And, Bobby Green is on this nice little couple fight win streak, but he's not the same Bobby Green as he was 5 years ago. So, give me Jalen Turner for the pick, but this could be a live betting opportunity. If Jalen goes out and dominates Bobby, but Bobby's hanging in there and it doesn't really look like he's going to get finished, it could get interesting towards the later rounds. So something to watch there. But give me Jalen Turner for the pick.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Jalen Turner as well. There's just a lot of concerns around it. And with the price being where it's at, I don't know if I'll play it, because the concerns being the cardio. We saw it in the last fight, the pace that Hooker put on him. Bobby Green's going to put that same kind of pace. And then the weight cut, short notice, he's probably going to have to, kind of kill himself to get down to 155. And he normally does with the short notice. It's not a great thing. I watched a podcast a couple of days ago. I think he said he was at like 180. So he's going to have to cut about 25 pounds, I guess 24 pounds in 10 days. So it's not impossible, but it's certainly going to have a toll on your body. The plus side for Jalen Turner is the reach and the different weapons that he can possess on the feet with the kicks. I would expect him to be very kick heavy in this one. Bobby Green's not one to shoot a lot of takedowns, might catch a kick, look for something there. But I would expect him to do a lot of front kicks, a lot of teeps, keep him at range. And the concern for Bobby is he uses a lot of head movement. And against a lot of these other lightweights, he's able to get away with it, just kind of stepping back or moving his head off to the side and getting out of range. But you're facing a 6'3" guy in Jalen Turner. And that head movement doesn't always work out well. Bobby Green's known for having his hands low and using the head movement. But if you're at 6'3" with the reach, sometimes you're not going to be able to get out of the way when that long reach is coming at you and you're just trying to move your head just enough to get out of the way. That's a concern for Bobby Green. I don't love the price on Jalen Turner, but he'll be the pick for me. But once again, you gotta see what the weigh-ins are looking like there. Bantamweight bout, Rob Font coming in at -145 against the bantamweight debuter Davison Figueiredo, sitting at +115, over under 1.5 rounds, -300 for the over, +225 for the under. Davison Figueiredo, 35 years old, making the move up to bantamweight. He did a lot of great work at flyweight. This will be his first fight against someone not named Brandon Moreno since November of 2020. He had that quadrilogy against Brandon Moreno where he went 1, 2, and 1. And he said, I'm done with that. We all know that he kind of kills himself to get down to 125. You see the pictures and the videos of him doing that, and you're like, yeah, this guy should probably be a 135er, but more likely a 130er, because I think at 135, he's going to be a little bit undersized. Rob Font, you see there, 3 inches taller, 3.5 inches in reach. Rob Font, known for his boxing. He's kind of been up and down. He's been in the rankings for a while, but he's 2-3 in his last 5. Coming off the disappointing loss to Corey Sandhagen, where he was just on his back the entire fight. But before that, big knockout win against Adrian Yanez in the first round. And that was a good bounce back for him, not falling out of the rankings, or at least, not falling out of the top 10. So this is a good fight. I love this fight. I'm interested to see how Figgy does at 135. What are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, I'm interested to see the game plan for Figgy coming into this one, because if you stand and bang with Rob Font, like, Rob is one of the more technical boxers in the UFC. He holds some power. He's tough on the feet too. It's not like you're going to go out there and spark Rob Font. Like, if you get into a 3-round war with Rob Font that is strictly at striking range, like, it's going to be tough to beat him. So that makes me concerned that, if Figgy comes out here and can't get the takedown or doesn't even try and just stands and bangs with him, like, I don't know how well he's going to fare at 135. Like, those guys hold a little bit more power. It's not like, I don't think there's going to be a massive speed advantage for Figgy here either. God damn it, at 125, he wasn't like blindingly fast. He's just a very methodical and smooth striker. So I don't think the speed's going to be a big factor in this fight. But for Rob Font, like, I look at the guys he's fought and who he's been taken down by. It's Ricky Simone, Marlon Moraes a couple times, and Cody Garbrandt, and obviously Corey Sandhagen. But other than that, when guys stand with him, he seems to have success, or at least he can rack up a lot of numbers on you. And some similarities I see with him and Brandon Moreno are their technical boxing. And when Davison tried to stand and do that with Moreno, like, he failed a couple of times. And I think all but one fight, Moreno was able to outstrike him and outland him pretty comfortably. And even, finished him on the feet at one point with the body kick and just looked really good. So, yeah, I got to go with Rob Font here. I'd love to see Figgy go up and have some success at 135, but stylistically, you can't get Rob Font down. I don't think he's going to beat him on the feet here. Figgy's not this young, I wouldn't even say he's in his prime anymore. I'd say he might be a step past his prime from what we've seen in the last couple of fights. So, yeah, give me Rob Font here. And, if Figgy can get the takedowns, might be a little different story, a little closer, but I think it plays out on the feet, and I think Rob Font gets it done.
Yeah, I'm just having a tough way of, like, finding a path to victory for Figueiredo. I'd say the best path to victory for him would be for him to find a submission, which I just don't know if that's going to happen. Like, it seems like a long shot for Figueiredo. Like, what he does at 125 is he just kind of waits to explode. He's not the highest volume striker on the feet, but he just wait, find his opening, hit you with a big shot, and it'd be more impactful than, the other 5 to 10 that Brandon Moreno's throwing at him. So this one, it seems like Rob Font all day. But one thing to keep an eye on, Rob Font has only been finished one time in his entire career. It was by submission. He's never been knocked out. But that one submission loss was a guillotine choke to Pedro Munoz back in 2017. And if you look at Deiveson Figueiredo, he's got a good amount of submissions on his record, and he's got a damn good guillotine. He's gotten that a couple times, once against Alex Perez, Tim Elliott. So, I mean, something to keep an eye on there. I don't think Rob Font's going to be shooting takedowns, but you never know when they're in a clinch, and Figgy could try to lock something up. But I think this is probably Rob Font all day. I mean, he's got good cardio too. 3-round fight. You don't need like a big load of cardio to get through a 3-round fight, but I think the pace and just the jab and that he sets, the pace that he sets early should be able to overcome Figueiredo. I think he gets the win. Font will be the pick for me. Welterweight bout. Sean Brady coming in at -140 against Kelvin Gastelum, sitting at +110. Over under 1.5 rounds, -200 for the over, +165 for the under. Sean Brady coming back after a year off since his first career loss. Kelvin Gastelum coming back since his first win in a very long time against Chris Curtis back at UFC 287. That was a controversial one, but making the move down to 170 finally. We've been saying it for how long? This guy should be a 170er. He's been fighting at middleweight for a long time. He's always been undersized, and I think at 170 he should find a good home there. It really just comes down to, is the work ethic going to be there? Is he going to be able to make weight? Is he going to be, ready to go at 170? Because stripping down 15 pounds is not an easy thing to do. But I do think 170 should fit him well if he does go in there well prepared. And then Sean Brady, like I said, coming back after his first loss to Bilal Muhammad, that was one in Abu Dhabi. I don't think that suited him well. Apparently, making that long trip across the seas, fighting in a different place than you're used to. And I think the moment probably got to him and he takes the loss there. But it's to Bilal Muhammad. I mean, Bilal Muhammad should probably get the next title shot. I don't know if he will, but he's up there with the best in the world. So, I mean, you can't knock him too much for that. And he's had a couple bouts that got canceled in this year. So it's not like it was a planned thing to take a year off. A couple of canceled bouts to Michelle Pereira and Jack Della Maddalena. So stepping in here against Kelvin Gastelum, it's a good fight. And a spot where two guys could, go different ways. If Brady takes a loss, that's 2 in a row. If Kelvin Gastelum takes a loss after moving a division, it's like, where do you go from here? So it's an interesting fight. Who you got?
Yeah, very important fight too. I just got questions on both sides. Like Brady, layoff, injuries. So you just never know how he looks coming back. And Kelvin Gastelum, like we've all heard the rumors in the past, the dude, has problems wanting to stay in shape or taking it seriously, taking his diet seriously and all that, and training, when he's not in fight camp. So now to be cutting down to 170, like if that's a rough cut, I don't think Sean Brady's the guy you want to fight, because Brady's going to be in your grill looking to take you down, and it's an exhausting pace that Brady can put on guys. So, if Kelvin has a bad weight cut, doesn't look good at 170, doesn't look good on the scales, and Sean Brady can have some success with the takedowns and grappling, I think Brady can walk away with this. But at the same time, I look at who Sean Brady has fought, and outside of Bilal Muhammad, he's beat Michael Chiesa, Jake Matthews, and then some guys that Court McGee, and then some guys that people probably never heard of. And this is going to be, if he beats Kelvin, this is going to be his biggest and best win, by far. I don't put too much stock into Michael Chiesa. I've never been a big fan. I think these last 4 years or so, he hasn't been the same guy. So, if he comes out here and beats Kelvin, he's it's a damn good feather in your cap. And for Kelvin, the name of the game for him is going to be keep this thing on the feet. I think he is going to be the better striker. And for only being 32 or 33 years old for Kelvin, he's got so much experience against the absolute best guys in the world at 185. Israel Adesanya fight was a war that went all 5 rounds. Had Izzy hurt, cracked him, rearranged his face. I mean, both guys were messed up. And then, he's fought the Jared Cannoniers and Robert Whitaker, where he fell short to both of those guys. But those guys are damn good strikers, and they have more of an element than just their grappling. And, if Sean Brady comes out here and looks well improved in the striking department and hangs with Kelvin on the feet, then yeah, I do think it is a close fight. But overall, I see the damage and the striking advantage going to Kelvin here. And to the judges, might just look a little bit better than all the grappling and control time. So yeah, I gotta lean Kelvin Gastelum. I'm a Sean Brady fan though. I hope he bounces back. I think it will be a good fight. And the one thing on Brady's side too is, Kelvin's been submitted before. Brady's very capable of finding the submissions. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He's very strong. So yeah, Kelvin dropping down to 170. It's going to be pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, it's a really tough one because you're getting a clash of styles too. I mean, Brady is known for the grappling. He doesn't really land that many strikes when he gets you down. He did his first fight, he landed 119, but since then, I mean, he's been sub 50 in almost all of them. The fight with Bilal, we were probably expecting more wrestling. Sean Brady shot 5 times, didn't get a single one. Bilal Muhammad has great takedown defense. And we saw in that fight, like, the stand-up can use some improvements. Kelvin Gastelum in this one, I think it needs to expose that, and it needs to expose it early, because if Sean Brady can get in on you early, get you down and get into a rhythm there, get some confidence back, because that's another thing. When he's coming off his first career loss, if he goes in there, starts getting touched up, maybe those doubts start to leak into his mind. Be like, oh God, here we go again. But if Brady can go in there, get some takedowns early, or maybe just get started on the feet early, I think he could take over. Brady will be the pick for me. I do think he goes in there and is able to clinch him up early and have his type of fight early, and I think that'll carry over into the later rounds. Brady will be the pick for me. But it's a weird one because you don't really know a lot about either guy at this point. Like, you don't know how Gastelum's going to look at 170. You don't know how Brady looks at this level of competition. I mean, we saw him against Bilal, but the win over Chiesa is like, Chiesa's definitely past the prime. Bilal is top tier. So at this range, it's like you don't know where to put him. You don't know where to put him yet. So it's a weird one, but Brady will be the pick for me. Middleweight bout, Punahele Soriano coming in at minus 250 against Dustin Stoltzfus, sitting at plus 200. Over under 1.5 rounds, minus 145 for the over, plus 115 for the under. Dustin Stoltzfus, you see there, 1-4 in his last 5, 2-3 in his last 5 for Soriano. Coming into this one, he's a minus 250 favorite. It's not the biggest favorite, but he is a sizable favorite. Stoltzfus UFC run has not been good. His only win is to Dwight Grant, who was like 38 years old at the time. And that was just one that is just super low level. And then you're coming in here against Punahele, who, I mean, there's been some promise. He came into the UFC, fairly young in his professional career. He's losses to Brendan Allen, Nick Maximov, and Roman Kopylov. I give him a pass on the Kopylov and Brendan Allen, but then the Maximov loss is a little concerning. The wins aren't to anybody like great. I mean, he's showed promise with the power. The wrestling offensively is okay. The takedown defense has not looked good. But overall, Stoltzfus just hasn't impressed in any way. So in this one, I can see why the line is that way. But, minus 250 on Soriano at this point. I don't know if I'm going to be jumping off my seat to get it. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, it's greasy, man. With Puna, like, I was on him against Roman Kopylov because it's before everybody really knew about Roman Kopylov, right? I mean, since then, Kopilov's gone on 3 or 4 fight KO streak and has looked phenomenal. But against Lungan Bula, I thought Puna looked very, very good. His power is evident in every single fight. Like, the guy swings with ill intent. But against Roman Kopylov, like, when he had to take some body shots and stuff, he really, really didn't eat him very well, and he was wearing down. You mix in some grappling with that, I think he wears down even faster, which is what is the main thing concerning me about taking him at this price as such a big favorite or putting him in parlays, because as Stoltzfus, his record looks like absolute garbage. Like, you look at it, he's got the win over Dwight Grant, and he did beat Joe Pyfer technically on the Contender Series. That's what's going to say on the record at least. But his losses, Abus Magomedov by KO early in that fight kind of showed us that maybe he doesn't have the best chin. Gerald Meerschaert submitted him. Rodolfo Vieira submitted him. That's two of like the best grapplers in the game right there, as far as strictly jiu-jitsu goes. Like two of the best right there. But one thing Stoltzfus does do well is he'll duck under the big shots and he will take guys down at times. He did it 4 times against Gerald Meerschaert. He was able to take down Dwight Grant. So I worry that if Puna doesn't get him out of there in the first round, slows down a little bit, and Dustin can take him to the ground and control him a little bit or just get him tired, it's a whole different fight. It actually gets really, really close, and people are going to be sweating out that big favorite ticket on Soriano here. So for the pick, I'm going to say that Punahele Soriano comes out and finishes him, because I don't have a lot of stock in Stoltzfus at all. But if it gets past the first round, I'm going to be sweating a little bit. Punahele will be the pick, but this could be parlay buster of the week, man. And I hate even saying that with a guy like Stoltzfus, but it's just what I'm seeing when I look at the tape.
Yeah, I mean, the concern for Soriano watching the Kopylov fight is he was so easy to hit. Like, it wasn't, you had no game plan. Like, once he got hit, he was like, don't know what to do. It's kind of like a deer in the headlights, just get hit again. And it was just super downhill after he started to get hit. The thing is, I don't think Stoltzfus is going to be able to come in here and do anything that Kopylov was able to do.
Right.
I mean, Soriano is going to be the pick for me. It seems like a bounce back spot for Soriano. I mean, Stoltzfus, I can't imagine, has too many more fights on his contract. And Soriano's young enough, and young enough in his career where he could, make a bounce back and look for something. But maybe both guys are contracts are on the line or jobs are on the line. So Soriano will be the pick for me. We can move on. Lightweight bout, Joaquim Silva coming in at minus 320 against Clay Guida, sitting at plus 245. Over under 2.5 rounds, minus 115 for the over, minus 115 for the under. The 41-year-old Clay Guida still doing the damn thing. You see the record there. A wealth of professional experience. Silva 2-3 in his last 5. Guida is also 2-3 in his last 5. It's an interesting fight. You see the wide line there. We all know Clay Guida is always game as an underdog, but in this one, he's 41. We saw his last fight against Rafa Garcia. You could tell the age was there. You could really tell, because Rafa Garcia is more of a takedown guy, does have some good stand-up, but Rafa Garcia landed 141 significant strikes on Clay Guida. There was just no answer for the boxing of Garcia. And Clay Guida 0 for 3 on takedowns, couldn't get anything going there. It just wasn't a good performance for him. Kind of got beat up. And for his opponent, Joaquim Silva, coming off the loss to Tsarukyan, it was, I would say it's probably like a bright side for him. He got dominated in the first round, but he was able to crack him in the second and then get finished in the third. But he was like a plus 800 underdog in that one. Big underdog. Nobody expected him to win, but at least he had some moments in that one. His UFC career has been up and down. He's taken losses to Ricky Glenn, Nasrat, Hack Paras, Vince Pichel. And then he's got a couple wins on his record. Jesse Ronson most recently, and then a win over Jared Gordon that ages pretty decently back in 2018. So heavy-handed Joaquim Silva going up against Clay Guida, was just a junkyard dog, mostly known for his wrestling. Interesting matchup, wide line. What do you got on this one?
Yeah, this one just seems simple to me. Clay Guida, 42 years old, or is going to be turning 42, I think, a week after this fight, against Silva, who's just dangerous at all times. And having a 42-year-old who, kind of just disregards the power of his opponents and just marches forward and gets into these wars with guys. I just don't think at this age it's going to fare well. We saw the power in Silva in his last fight when he about put Tsarukyan out, and we've seen it in past fights too, where he has knocked guys out. And the big thing for him too, I think his jiu-jitsu is very, very good on the ground. And Clay Guida has been submitted 9 times in his professional career. One as recently as Claudio Puelles, where he caught him in the knee bar. And with Clay, his style is just so wild. I think he puts himself in some of these bad situations. He's just that much of a dog where he wants to get in these wars. He just has no regard for his opponent's strengths. Weaknesses, he's just out there fighting the same style at all times. I mean, Hoffa Garcia was able to take him to decision and just beat the brakes off him on the feet. And I think Silva is a 10 times more dangerous fighter than Garcia. He could catch him with the power and on the ground. If Clay does want to wrestle, not going to be surprised if he gets caught in something. I'll probably be playing the Silva submission line, just seeing how many times Clay has been submitted and seeing how good Silva's jiu-jitsu truly is. I could see a club and sub, or I can see Guida shooting in for a takedown, somewhere middle to later in the fight, and Silva snatching up the neck, taking the back, something like that. Yeah, so give me Joaquin Silva to win this fight. Love Clay, though. It could be fight of the night, too. You just never know with Clay Guida.
Yeah, the concerning thing for me is Silva has been knocked out, 3 times in his UFC career. So if you're betting chalk, it's never like a good thing to have a guy that could get knocked out at any moment. Clay Guida doesn't have the heaviest of hands. On the Clay Guida side, in 61 professional fights, he's only been knocked out twice. So, I mean, the guy has a chin on him. And both those knockouts came in the 3rd round. So they're not like, getting cold cocked in the 1st round or anything type of like that. He's taken some damage. So Joaquin Silva, he's heavy-handed early for sure. I think he should get this thing done as long as he, sticks to a game plan, doesn't get into some weird, Clay Guida type of fight where it's going his way. So I think Joaquin Silva gets the win here. He'll be the pick for me. Bantamweight bout. Miesha Tate coming in at plus 125 against Julia Avila, sitting at minus 155. Over under 2.5 rounds, minus 290 for the over, plus 230 for the under. 37 years of age for Miesha Tate, 35 years of age for Julia Avila. You see 1-4 in her last 5 for Miesha Tate. That 1-4 spread out a very long way. And 4-1 for Julia Avila. That 4-1 is also spread out a very long way. So 2 girls that are pretty inactive getting the nod here on the UFC Austin card. It's a greasy women's bantamweight fight. Miesha Tate is she took that long layoff back in which took the loss to Raquel Pennington, kind of retired, comes back in 2021, almost 5 years later, gets a win. It's like, where do you go from here? You've been off for 5 years. They give her Katlyn Vieira. She takes a loss and then another loss to Lauren Murphy back in July of 2022. Julia Avila, 3-1 in the UFC. Her wins are nothing to write home about. I mean, Yulia Stoliarenko, Gina Mazzani, Penny Kianzad, and that's been spread out over the past 4 years. So 2 girls that are just inactive. And this one is who knows? Who really knows? So, I mean, I'm pretty much going to chalk it up to a dog or pass at this point. I mean, there's no way that you can come into this and know exactly how they're going to fight. Just keep it real. You don't know what Miesha Tate's going to look like at 37 years of age. You don't know what Julia Avila is going to look like coming into this one after another long layoff. And she's older herself. She doesn't have a ton of experience professionally either. So weird one, very weird one. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so I'm surprised to see this line growing more and more towards Julia here. And I mean, I understand it's Miesha Tate. She's older, like you said, came off at a long, long layoff where she was doing a bunch with one championship. And then she had a kid. And then she comes back and beats Marion Renault, who was on her retirement fight, who was, older. Kind of a setup win for Miesha. I think a lot of people thought maybe she was coming back for one fight and going to retire again. But then she gets a couple decent fighters in Katlyn Vieira and Lauren Murphy. The level of competition Miesha Tate has fought is far, far better than Julia Avila. And for Julia, I mean, you look at her wins, Julia Stoliarenko, Gina Mazzani, Penny Kianzad. I just don't hold any 3 of those fighters in high regard. And her loss to Shara Eubanks. And the thing is, Miesha Tate came off of having a baby and came in against Renault and won. Now, Julia is coming into this fight against Miesha Tate after a long layoff, having a baby during that layoff. And you just never know how she's going to come back. That's a lot of strain on your body. And to come back and try to get in fighting shape and fight again, it's got to be tougher than you would think. So Miesha has a path to victory, in my opinion. You come out there, you wrestler, you fight like you normally do. And maybe Julia just isn't the same fighter she was a couple of years ago. And just like you said, she doesn't have the most professional experience. She doesn't have the best UFC experience. And Miesha Tate has all of that. So it's very interesting. I think if you're taking Julia at a favorite of this price, I think you need to call the gambler's hotline because I just don't see a world where I could lay that kind of money on Julia here after a layoff a baby and being this big of a favorite. So yeah, give me the dog here. I'll take Miesha Tate for the pick. Probably not betting on her. But yeah, it's just one that could get very greasy.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go with Miesha Tate as well, and just bank on the experience, not having a kid as of recently or as recently as her, and me, back-to-back losses. I'm sure she's probably motivated to go in there and get a win. She's a good competitor. She's been in there with the best. I'm gonna take the dog as well because I just can't get behind a favorite here in Julia Avila.
Yep.
Middleweight bout, Cody Brundage coming in at plus 215 against Zach Reese, making his UFC debut at minus 270. Over under 1.5 rounds, plus 165 for the over, minus 200 for the under. The undefeated Zach Reese, 29 years of age for him, same age as Cody Brundage, and Cody Brundage 2-3 in his last 5. One of those wins coming via DQ to Jacob Malkoun his last time out. Took some elbows to the back of the head and said, "Peace, I'm taking my win, and there's nothing you can do about it because you elbowed me in the back of the head. I'll take the win, and then I'll turn around less than 3 months later and fight again because I'm ready. I'm about that." But before that, 3-fight losing streak to Cedric Dumas, lost to Rodolfo Vieira, and a loss to Michal Shacek. Cody Brundage, professional record is 9-5. And a lot of that has been in the UFC, so I can't knock him too much there. But what we've seen in the UFC from Cody Brundage, he's nothing to ride home about. Zach Reese, all wins in the first round, 4 of them by TKO, 2 by sub, and his Contender Series fight was impressive. Got the guy in an armbar when he got taken down, and that was the end of that. Got him out of there pretty quick. What do you got in this one?
Yeah, first Cody Brundage, man. The DQ in the first round of his last fight cashed me a plus 1,700 ticket. It was just a little hedge first round. I figured that was the only way Brundage wins. And I think it's the same story here. I think if he wins, it's in the first round. Zachary Reese, not very many professional fights, and his UFC debut. With that comes a lot of nerves. We see it all the time. And everybody bashes on Brundage, and I get it. The record is not good. Should be on a 4-fight losing streak. He was getting dominated by Jacob Malkoun, but he is dangerous in the first round, like with the hands, with the submissions. It's just with Brundage, like one slight thing goes bad, and then it's the end of the fight for him, it seems like. If he gets, I think it was against Michal Olajaychek, he was able to get the takedowns, but when Olajaychek reversed position, it didn't take very long until he was just ground and pounding him out, unconscious. Against Vieira, had him hurt, had the knockdown in the first round, got taken down later in the fight, and it was all over from there. So yeah, it's like the first thing that goes wrong for Cody Brundage is usually the beginning of the end. So if he can come out here and win this fight, I think it is in the first round. If not, I think Zachary Reese just needs to keep his composure, mix in some wrestling himself, get Brundage tired. I think Brundage will fade and do what he does. I will take Zachary Reese for the pick, but I don't know how I don't bet Cody Brundage first round finish again. I just don't see how I don't do it because there's always a chance with them.
Yeah, it was. I was on that too because we had first round KO TKO, and then they also throw the DQ in there. So I mean that was nice to have in the back pocket there when he got that DQ win. But in this one, I just think he's outgunned. I think Zach Reese, big frame for middleweight, 6'4", got a long reach. I think on the feet he should be able to tag him. On the ground, he's shown good submission ability. I just don't see a way Cody Brundage wins this fight unless it's DQ, unless he gets another DQ win. But I'm not going to bet on that. I don't know. Maybe you look at Brundage first round KO, but I just don't see it happen. I think the fight IQ from Cody Brundage is never good. And it's just not a guy I want to put my money on. So Zach Reese will be the pick for me, and I'll take him to get another first round finish in his UFC debut. Lightweight bout, Joe Solecki coming in at plus 105 against Drakkar Klose, sitting at minus 135, over under 1.5 rounds, minus 185 for the over, plus 155 for the under. Drakkar Klose, 35 years of age, 4-1 in his last 5, same as Solecki, and 30 years of age for Joe Solecki. Drakkar Klose is coming off a pretty long layoff. He had to pull out of his last fight back in October of 2022 because he had an ACL injury. So he's coming off of that. But his last fight was in July of 2022. Got a win over Rafa Garcia by decision. His only loss in the past 6 years is to Beneil Dariush. He's not a super active fighter. He's had 6 fights within that last 6 years, so he's had a lot of canceled bouts, maybe some health issues there. But Joe Solecki been more active than Drakkar Klose. Picked up a win against Carl Deaton his last time out. Deaton's bottom of the barrel, probably shouldn't be in the UFC, but he did submit it in the second round. It's a pretty easy win for him. Before that, fought Alex De Silva, won by a majority decision in a fight where a point got taken by De Silva. One of the judges gave Joe Solecki a 10-7 in round 2 in a fight where he landed. Let me just check to get this right. One of the judges gave him a 10-7 in round 2 where Joe Solecki landed 3 significant strikes. Granted, he had him down on the ground for 4 minutes and 40 seconds, 2 submission attempts, but 3 significant strikes landed. And that was the round that the point got taken. So I think it probably should have just been a 10-8, but either way, Joe Solecki gets the win there. I scored it to be a draw. One of the judges scored it to be a draw. It is what it is. That's the win. But either way, I mean, he only has 1 loss in the UFC, and that is to Jared Gordon, who is a very solid fighter, as we know. Who you got in this one? Interesting matchup.
Yeah. For this fight, I look at the stylistic matchup between the two. Drakkar Klose, is going to be the better striker here, obviously. Solecki, probably the better grappler, good jiu-jitsu. But Klose, his takedown defense is at 70%. It's not like he's a slouch with the wrestling, with the takedown defense at all. Like he's going to be harder to take down. He's a strong guy. He's got some offensive wrestling himself. But Solecki has shown that, if you just give him a slither of an opportunity to take the back or get the takedown, like he'll do it. And he's pretty relentless with his pressure to get this fight to the ground. And once you're under Solecki, it's hard to get up. He's got great control. He'll look for submissions. So stylistically, it's very interesting. But the one thing that I keep going back to is Drakkar Klose is off this almost 1.5 year layoff, ACL surgery, and, coming back to being 35 years old. Like it's a little bit older. You got Joe Solecki, who just turned 30 in August, going to be right in the middle of his prime. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. Now, if Klose can have a lot of success on the feet, and he could definitely win 2 rounds, in my opinion, for sure. But where Klose is going to thrive is landing the big shots against Solecki. But my concern is if he's trying to swing and land these big shots, I don't know how you do it successfully for that long without Solecki ducking under, wrapping you up, getting the body lock, and then taking you down, or just getting on your back and controlling you. I think Klose is going to have that in mind, and it's going to be harder for him to let the hands go, just knowing that Solecki is going to be waiting to duck under to try to get this thing to the ground. So I do think it is a close fight. I'm going to take Joe Solecki. I think a lot of the public money is coming in on Drakkar Klose, and this line's damn near, it's not quite a pick 'em, but the line's pretty close still. So while I'm getting plus money on Joe Solecki, I have to take him. He's going to be the pick. It's a pretty simple game plan for each guy, in my opinion. Solecki, get the takedowns, get the control time, look for submissions. For Klose, keep it on the feet and do what you do. It's just going to be interesting to see him come back off of that big surgery, off of a 1.5 year layoff, and now finding himself, a little past halfway to 40. So it's going to be interesting to me.
Yeah, you laid it out pretty much as far as the guy's game plan. Solecki wants to get it to the ground, control you there, maybe get your back, throw the body triangle in, and try to work for a submission there. He doesn't do a ton of damage on the ground. Drakkar Klose, a very solid striker on the feet, will mix in some wrestling of his own, but in this one, I don't think he'll be looking to do that because he probably doesn't want to give Solecki any opportunities on the ground. Because I do think Drakkar Klose probably has him outgunned on the feet. He is a little bit older, coming off the injury, might look a little bit slower, but just based on who they fought, I think Drakkar Klose is the rightful favorite. And if you look at the stats, he just lands more on the feet. He's got decent takedown defense, and I think he should be able to keep this fight on the feet enough to pull out a victory. So I'm going to go with your car Klose as the slight favorite there. Featherweight bout, Steve Garcia coming in at plus 185 against Malkizile Costa, sitting at minus 225. Over under 1.5 rounds, minus 160 for the over, plus 130 for the under. Steve Garcia, 6 feet, you see there on the screen. Malky only 2 inches shorter. So both guys pretty good frame for the featherweight division. And then Steve Garcia, 3-2 in his last 5. Malky Costa, 3-2 in his last 5 as well. Garcia coming off a big knockout win, UFC 287 over Shailen Nerdebeki. If you watch Steve Garcia fight, they're always entertaining. Like the guy, it seems like if you touch his chin, it affects him, but he has a way of just getting around it. He's a pressure fighter. He's going to get in your face, throw hard with his hands. He's going to rip a really solid body kick, maybe go up high, southpaw. He's just going to put the pressure on you early. I mean, he's knocked out Shailen in his last fight, knocked out Chase Hooper in the first round before that. And then the fight before that, he got knocked out. So we've seen him get hurt before in a lot of his fights. Costa, his last time out, just absolutely dominated Austin Lingo to get his first UFC win. And that was a fight where Lingo, super boxing heavy, Malky Costa used a lot of kicks and different weapons to get that win there in dominant fashion. But before that, made his debut against Moises. He gets choked out in the second round. That was at 155. So you could see the difference there when he goes down to 145, a lot bigger, better frame for 145. And that's definitely his home there. It's a fun matchup. I think this is an underrated fight on the card because Garcia is going to bring the heat. Costa, very good striker as well, does have submission skills as well. So it's going to be a fun fight. I'm really looking forward to this one. Who you got?
Yeah, the striking is going to be a lot of fun. And for Steve Garcia, last few fights, he's looked really good. One, obviously, against Chase Hooper. Found the finish. Dropped him, 3 times in that fight. He's very powerful. But Chase Hooper's not a striker. And then against Nerdebecky's a tough guy. And Nerdebeki had Steve Garcia, when he landed that shot in the first round, I thought Garcia was out cold. And then he hits the canvas, kind of wakes up, and was able to survive that and, finally get him into his guard and wrap up and just survive. Go into the second round, and he knocks him out and gets the finish. And that's the thing about Steve Garcia is, if you can't put him out early in the fight, he's going to be there all 3, tired or not. He's going to march forward, and he's going to throw. And if he connects, the power is obviously there. We've seen it. And I think his past, 4 wins counted Contender Series, all are by knockout. The dude is not a small guy for this division either. And for Malky Costa, has the win over Austin Lingo by decision. I just don't know if that warrants him being the favorite in this fight or not. Austin Lingo is a good boxer, but that's about the extent of it. Costa in that fight did very good work to the body. The body kicks were brutal, and he throws them on repeat. He'll throw 4 at a time at some points in fights, which does make it tough. But Garcia, as far as the wrestling and grappling goes, he's not a slouch by any means. He averages 1.5 per fight, and his takedown defense is damn good at 94%. So I don't see Costa coming out here and taking him down by any means and having a ton of success. If anything, I could see Garcia catching a few kicks, taking Costa down, and then probably Costa working back up to his feet, and they reset. It's just interesting, man. Garcia as the underdog is always a wild card because of the power. I like it a lot. Costa's still a little bit inexperienced as far as UFC caliber and UFC level fighters go. He beat Austin Lingo, and that's it. So for that reason, I got to take Garcia. I got to take the power here, and hope he clips him at some point. Could be a little parlay buster. Could be a good dog cash, so I'm going to be taking him.
Yeah, I like Malky Costa. He showed a lot of good skills in his last time out. In this one, if he wants to win this fight, I think he's got to make it boring, which is not fun for the fans. But for him to get a win, I think he's just got to stay at kicking range. Don't engage in these wild boxing exchanges that Steve Garcia is going to look for, and stay off his back because Steve Garcia can go to the ground. He lands 1.5 takedowns per fight. I don't know if he's going to naturally go to that in this one because I think his just default setting is to throw bombs and land them. And he's a solid striker. he's got some good wins too on, the regional scene. Chepe Mariscal, Ronnie Lawrence, and then in the UFC, his wins aren't like crazy. Got the knockout win against Chase Hooper in one that was super eye-opening. But I just watch his fights, and I'm like, how has this guy not been knocked out like in a lot of these fights? Like, he's only been knocked out once. And that was to Mahashat. But he gets hit pretty hard, but he just finds a way to get out of it. Like, he got knocked down by Nurtabeke, got knocked down twice by Mahashat, got knocked down twice by Charlie Ontiveros, and he was still able to win 2 of those 3 fights. So, and he's a junkyard dog, and I don't think this line is giving him enough credit. So I think it's probably dog or pass in this one. I'll take Steve Garcia for the pick as well. I love watching him fight because he just goes in there and chucks. So I'll take him. Like I said, Costa, if he wants to win this fight, he's got to make it boring, or maybe catch him early. Could knock him out early, but Garcia will be the pick for me. It's a good value play. Light heavyweight bout. Rodolfo Bellato coming in at minus 450 against Ihor Potieria, sitting at plus 325. Over under 1.5 rounds, plus 155 for the over, minus 185 for the under. Rodolfo Bellato making his UFC debut. He's 4-1 in his last 5. Potieria 3-2 in his last 5. And you see the height there, both men 6'3". Bellato's got a little bit of reach, both men the same age at 27. Bellato coming off his big win on the Contender Series where he was an underdog. He was a plus 225 dog against Murtaza Talha. Knocks him out in the second round. TKO, just put the pace on him and cash to get his ticket to the UFC. Now coming in as a massive favorite, minus 450 against Ihor Potieria, who's 1-2 in the UFC. His only win is to a washed, now retired Mauricio Shogun Hua, which was like just the worst scene for like a retirement fight. He's fighting some random Ukrainian dude in his home country of Brazil. In his retirement fight, he gets knocked out. Potieria is like dancing on him. This is weird. Then he comes back and gets knocked out against Carlos Olberg. So, yeah, this one is just a crazy line in my opinion. It's just way too wide. Bellato, he's got a good submission game if he gets you down to the ground. On the feet, he's a little bit more technical. He's not one of these light heavyweights that's going to chuck bombs and put you out cold. But Potieria is decent on the feet. He's dangerous early. So I just don't like the price. That's just laying really heavy chalk on a guy making his debut. And he's been under those bright lights before, live crowd. There's a lot of red flags here with the favorite there. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think so too. It makes me very, very nervous. Because I watch him on the Contender Series, and Bellato's had a lot of success in his career when he can take guys to the ground. He'll look for submissions, top control, ground and pound. He finds finishes that way. But on the feet, like when he gets in there with guys with some serious power, he's lost his only 2 professional losses, both come by TKO or KO. And not that Ihor Potieria is like a dangerous, savage striker, but he does hold some power early in fights. Like we saw him get the knockout against Shogun Hua, who obviously was older, yeah. But then he has another first-round KO on the Contender Series. And then his other 2 losses are by KO too, to some good strikers and powerful guys. So this guy's never in a boring fight. Like a finish is going to happen when it comes to Ihor Potieria. And for Bellato, the one thing I think he's going to have on his side is obviously going to be the grappling, and the ground game is going to be far better than Ihor here, but also the cardio. I was actually pretty impressed with Bellato on the Contender Series in his last fight to be able to, survive that first round, come into the second, and literally, I think the ref could have stopped it sooner. This dude was just kept having to punch and punch and punch, and finally gets a stoppage. But, it will be interesting to see how he deals with Potieria's power. Because early in the fight, like I said, Ihor, he will crack. And, if Bellato can't hang with those shots at the UFC level, maybe Ihor Potieria upsets everybody's parlays and cashes as a big dog. But I think if Bellato's smart and he can come out here, and if he gets this fight to the ground one time, I think it's fight over, whether he finishes Potieria or he takes all the energy out of him and then just takes him down again in the next round, ground and pound submission, game over. So, yeah, for the pick, I'm going to take Bellato. Betting-wise, he will not be in any of my parlays or bets. just because of the fact that, Potieria is dangerous on the feet at times, and Bellato has struggled with some big power in the past. So, yeah, give me Bellato for the pick. Very greasy spot.
Yeah, Bellato, like you said, both his losses come by knockout. Granted, they were to Vitor Petrino, both of them. Vitor's got a lot of power. He's pretty dang good for even in the UFC. He's looked pretty dang good. Potieria, it's like before he even got in the UFC, he's not like fighting anybody good. Like these guys are 0-1 or 0-0, 1-9. I mean, he's finishing these guys pretty easily. And even taking some losses to like 3-3, 2-2. So I don't know. I mean, Potieria doesn't have like a big future in the UFC, I don't think. Bellato, I mean, it could be okay for a little bit. I'm sure. I mean, the lack of like big knockout power at light heavyweight is going to be something he's going to have to deal with because you can't outlast everybody. I do expect him to outlast Potieria in this one, maybe get a second or third round finish. But Potieria being dangerous in the first round concerns me. It's a wide line. I won't be touching Bellato by any means. And I'll take it for the pick, but it's just a light heavyweight greasy fight debuter, not in a spot that I want to take, but he'll be the pick. Welterweight bout, Wellington Turman coming in at -185 against Jared Gooden sitting at +155. Over under 2.5 rounds, -140 for the over, +110 for the under. Jared Gooden, second stint in the UFC. He's coming off a loss. He took the fight on short notice, Carlston Harris, but he's coming in here on a full camp against Wellington Turman. He was 2-3 in his last 5. Still 27 years of age for him, though, and still getting better. He's coming in as a favorite, though, not a spot that he's really used to. Wellington Turman, usually the dog, but he moved down to 170 his last fight, and he looked a little bit better there against Randy Brown. Gave him a good third round, lost 29-28. Coming in this one as a favorite against Jared Gooden. Jared Gooden, he's got some big power on the feet. The wrestling, he got out wrestled against Carlston Harris. And I would expect Wellington Turman to try to go to that well in this one. Wellington Turman, more of a grappler, as we've seen in his career. So this is a lower level welterweight fight with two guys that haven't shown like a ton of success in the UFC. So it's a little greasy. What are you thinking?
Yeah. First of all, I don't think Wellington Turman is -200 over anybody. I'm just never been impressed with him. Like, he's got a handful of UFC fights, and we've seen him in there with a lot of different guys, and he's just never really impressed me at all. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Even against, I think it was Serkinov, he got the submission off his back, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But seemed to be losing the fight and then pulls it off. But he will be dangerous if he can get Jared Gooden's back or if he can get on top. But other than that, I just don't see where the danger lies as far as, if he's standing on the feet. I don't think he's going to knock Gooden out by any means. I do think Gooden will probably be the better striker, more powerful striker, and he's a strong guy. Like, for Wellington Turman, the game plan, or at least the path to victory, is going to be to get this fight to the ground where your best skill set is. But if you look at the stats, like, Wellington Turman has a 19% takedown accuracy. So he's not landing them at a high rate at all. The submission game and the grappling is obviously there, but the offensive wrestling to get it to the mat is just not impressive, in my opinion. Where Jared Gooden's got a nearly 70% takedown defense and is a strong guy, and he's shown he can fight all 3 rounds. I mean, a lot of his fights do go to decision so far in the UFC. I just don't see the -200 on Wellington Turman. I'm probably going to take a dog shot here on Gooden. Just for the fact that if Wellington can't get the fight to the ground, I think it's pretty damn close on the feet. And if you're going to give me that big of a dog in a close fight, I'm going to take it every single time. So give me Jared Gooden here.
Yeah, it's like I like the move to welterweight for Wellington Turman. I don't know if he'll have a ton of success there, but I think it's the right move for his career. The Randy Brown fight, Randy Brown fights, he always has a way of making these fights close. Just losing a round for no reason or just getting a little bit too confident. And that third round against Randy Brown, Turman turned it on and was able to win that third round, but it was already done. Like, he had lost the first 2. So I don't know if he was just taking the round off or what. Turman, he's been knocked out twice in his career. Jared Gooden does have some good power in his hands. And if he wants to win this fight, it's got to be there. It's got to be on the feet. Like you said, Wellington Turman doesn't have good takedown accuracy. It's not like he's able to get these takedowns easily. Jared Gooden does have, 60-some% takedown defense, 68% takedown defense in his UFC career. With his last fight being short notice, I give him a little bit of a pass there, getting taken down 5 times by Carlston Harris. He did look pretty decent on the feet against Carlston Harris. Like, I will say that. Like, if Carlston Harris doesn't take him down, Jared Gooden has a better chance of winning that fight. I can definitely see a dog shot here. It's probably dog or pass if you're going to be betting. I'll take Wellington Turman for the pick because I think he has a little bit more promise. But it's just not something I'll probably be betting. So that's what I got on that one. Not one I'd probably get too invested in. Flyweight bout, Veronica Hardy coming in at -115 against Jamie Lynn Horth, sitting at -115 as well. Over under 2.5 rounds, -325 for the over, +235 for the under. The undefeated 33-year-old Jamie Lynn Horth making her UFC debut at flyweight. She had her real UFC debut at bantamweight. She got a dub there against Haley Cohen. Veronica Hardy busted everyone's parlays her last time out against Juliana Miller in the comeback fight. She had taken 3 years off and comes back as a big underdog against Juliana Miller. She goes in there and just whoops her ass. Juliana Miller couldn't do anything in that fight. Veronica Hardy looked like, not like a world beater, but she looked like she should have been the -400 favorite in that one. And that seems to be a little bit of a recency bias going into this fight because you see Veronica Hardy being super undervalued her last time out, and now she's set as a pick'em against the undefeated Jamie Lynn Horth. Flyweight, I would expect. Veronica Hardy fought at like bantamweight for a while, or for a couple fights. Or I guess her last fight before she took the long layoff against Solecki. Definitely not the spot that she should be fighting. Veronica Hardy, even at 125, maybe looks a little bit smaller than a lot of these girls. But Jamie Lynn Horth should be the bigger fighter here coming in in the flyweight division against Veronica Hardy. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm taking Jamie Lynn Horth here, and for a couple of reasons. Veronica Hardy was on after the Solecki fight, it was on a 3-year layoff or so. Yeah, almost 3 years to the day. And she comes in against Juliana Miller as a +350 underdog and wins. And since then, we've learned that Juliana Miller is bottom of the barrel, not that good of a fighter at the UFC level. Yeah, she won the Ultimate Fighter, but really doesn't have much experience in pro MMA at all if you look at her record. And so, coming off of that, to now being a damn near pick'em fight against Jamie Lynn Horth, who's undefeated and has looked pretty good so far in her career, is hard to justify for me. I think this line's wrong. I think Horth deserves to be -150, -175, and I think the line could grow to that point. When you look at Jamie Lynn Horth coming into the UFC, she fights up a weight class against Haley Cowan, and Haley Cowan is jacked. She's strong and is a pretty decent athlete and a good fighter too. She'll put a lot of girls up against the cage. She'll take them down and she'll win like that. She wasn't able to have that much success against Horth. Horth was able to get the better of her on the feet, outstruck her, did more damage, was able to keep it on the feet when she had to, landed good knees and elbows in the clinch. She's just a little nastier of a fighter. And to drop back down to your normal weight class for your sophomore outing in the UFC against Veronica Hardy, who's going to be 3 inches shorter, have a 3-inch reach disadvantage, I think everything points to Jamie Lynn Horth. Horth is strong, and she's got some powerful striking. Before her UFC debut, she was, I believe, 5 or 6-0 with all finishes by either submission or knockout. She's well-rounded. She hits really hard. You're not going to be able to go out there and outclass her in any facet of the fight, in my opinion, especially not Veronica Hardy. And if you're going to give me Jamie Lynn Horth at near even money against Veronica Hardy, I've got to take it all day long here. I think she wins. I think she could hurt her on the feet. I think she could grapple her up if she had to in this one as well. I just think she's going to be the better mixed martial artist here. So I got to take Jamie Lynn Horth.
Yeah, Veronica Hardy, the wife of Dan Hardy, PFL analyst now and obviously ex-UFC fighter. and it seems to be like she's getting some good work in with him. And we saw that in her return fight against Juliana Miller. I mean, Juliana Miller just really offered nothing on the feet that scared Veronica Hardy. So she was able to just piece her up on the feet, on the ground. She got in some situations with Juliana Miller, but was able to get it out of them. A lot of top control for her. But in this one, I don't know where she has the advantage. Like Jamie Lynn Horth, I think, is probably the better striker. Veronica Hardy maybe a little bit quicker, but I think Horth holds more power, at least more significance on her strikes. And I mean, she's still undefeated. Even in the amateurs, she fought Lupita Godinez twice in the amateurs, beat her both times. And just coming into this one, we've seen her in the UFC now. She matches up well with a girl at 135. I think going down to 125, she's the bigger, stronger. And I just think she's got her outgunned in all facets. I don't think Veronica Hardy's going to have success with the wrestling. On the feet, I think, I mean, she might be able to out-volume her, but I just don't see it happening. So I think Jamie Lynn Horth is the play. She'll be the pick for me. And, yeah, those are the picks, all 13 for UFC Austin. Once again, if you want the actual bets, jump in the Double Leg Premium. Links in the description for that. Gets you every single UFC card every week for less than $1 a day. And if you just want the picks for this week, they'll be available on Friday. $9.99 gets you all the bets for UFC Austin. Stay up to date at the Double Leg when those are dropped, and you can get them then. And obviously wait for the free pick as well. Put it out every week, and we've been hitting them lately. So stay tuned for that. At HeyJai Picks on the medias for me. Where can they find you?
All social medias at the Parlay MMA.
And on the medias for me, I'll put out some free plays as well on Underdog and Parlay Play. But yeah, it's a good fight card. 13. Hopefully we don't lose any. I mentioned to watch the weigh-ins for a couple of these fights, so make sure you stay tuned to that. And yeah, we should have a good card. I'm looking forward to it. We got fights on Saturday, and last Saturday was boring not having them. So lucky we got them for the next 3 weeks, and then we got a layoff. So let's make the most of these last 3 weeks and go into the holidays on a little bit of a heater. So good luck to you all. Thank you for watching. Hit the subscription button and hit the like button for us. The Double Leg here, signing out.